agenda, recommendation. Councillor Kirby.
Recommend that all items in the April 6, 2020 consent agenda be adopted for information.
Second, Councillor Kukaka. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Anything the council would like to discuss? No? Okay. New business 9.1. Letter of support for Building Healthy Community Committee Imagine Grant application. A report from Councillor Norbury dated April 6, 2020 seeking a letter of support for the BHCC's Imagine Grant application. Recommendation, please, Councillor Norbury.
The council send a letter of support for the Building Healthy Communities application to the Imagine BC to bring in a motivational speaker and performer CASP to perform at TRSS during Health Week.
Seconder. Councillor Lehman. Discussion. Councillor Norbury.
I'll just provide a brief idea of what we're trying to do here. The Imagine Grant is available for committees like ourselves twice a year, and we try to bring in a speaker. This speaker is a little outside the box, but I think we'll be able to help people a little outside the box. He is a rapper with a long list of awards in the area, and he has branched out into speaking against addictions and the dangers of addictions, and he has a little bit of a speciality in Aboriginal speaking, like heritage over addictions. So he is willing to come to Tumbler Ridge to speak to our high school, and the idea is that we have it at the high school gym, and I've spoken with the high school and supporting this as well, and then we open it to the public and sort of reach out to different people in our area. Like I'd love to reach out to First Nations groups to get them to come in as well, and to sort of regularly make this a good community event about the danger of addictions, positive mental health. It's all been dependent on this grant.
Any other discussion? Councillor Norbury, do you know the date for health and
It's October 3rd to 10th. Now this is all preliminary on if things are going to be open during that time, but it's far enough ahead that it could be, and if not, we can always work on a different date.
Any other comments? Okay, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 9.2, financial impact of proposed tax reductions. A report from the CAO April 6, 2020 regarding the financial impact of the proposed tax reductions. Recommendation, please. Councillor Kirby.
Move for discussion.
Seconder. Councillor Norbury. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Councillor Kirby.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I was just wondering if it would be all right if the CAO gave just a brief overview of this for people watching.
Sure.
Thank you.
Mr. Wall.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. So the report breaks down kind of the financial situation that the District of Motchosin is in. So what I mentioned during the tax setting meeting is that we likely have, once we have completed our asset management programming, there's going to be a gap between the money that we take in versus the money that we are spending, and that's with the understanding that we use the depreciation that we have this year as a fiscal expense in the year that we incur that depreciation. So I mentioned that there's going to be some level of service level decreases and tax level increases are needed to be need to make up. And if you do accept that and you accept that system, what that means is that if we are under collecting, any money that we don't collect today needs to be collected at a later date. So later on in the report, it kind of details that any reduction that you have now needs to be made up in the future somehow. It also breaks down the current savings that we have versus the amount of depreciation that we've currently incurred. So we've got about $24 million in savings, but we also have $16.5 million of depreciation. So this would leave $8 million for the things that we haven't done yet. So that would be our water, wastewater, and buildings. And again, it's not likely that the $8 million is going to cover all that. Now there are a few caveats on that. Grant funding really really makes it hard to predict what's going to happen in the future. We may be able to get 90% of our, 80 to 90% of our airport paid for through grants. We may not be. It's impossible to know at this point what's going to happen there. But I think even with that, again, we're underfunded with the depreciation. So Again, any money that's not taken in or spent out of those funds now will need to be made up at a later date. But that's assuming that council wants to plan for the one mine scenario. So the report details that there's 3 different planning scenarios that I think we should always have in mind when we're planning for Tumbler Ridge. Scenario 1 is that there's no mines. If there's no mines operating in Tumbler Ridge for a lengthy period of time, what we need, or what this organization needs to do is pretty massive service level reductions, pretty massive staffing level reductions, and a really big increase to residential and business tax rates. If we're planning for one mine like we have right now, that's where we get into, slight service level decreases, slight tax level increases, but any funds that we don't take in need to be made up in the future. And the third scenario is if you want to plan as if 2 months come along. And if that's the case, there's not too much need to worry about the amount of money that we take in. You just kind of take in the money that you have now, and when those mines come online, you can get taxes from them in order to fund the depreciation at that point. There's one other important point that's in here, and that's the generational percentage savings of assets. So in council's asphalt policy, what you said was we're only going to look to save for 80% of the value of the road. And it's important to understand that when we're saving for current depreciation, it's kind of like making your lease payment on a car. If you underfund that payment by 20%, by the end of it, you haven't paid for the full value. So then the next generation has to pay for 120%. And over 5 generations of an asset, you're going to end up with the 5th generation having to pay twice for one, for a single use. And that's kind of the position that council's in right now, where you have an entire generation of asset that hasn't been saved for, except for starting a few years ago. And so, the last couple councils and the next couple councils are playing catch up on depreciation while replacing what we have. So that's kind of the fiscal situation that we're in right now.
Thank you, Mr. Wall.
Thanks.
Any other discussion? Okay. Let's move on. Notice of motion, 10.1. Mr. Howard, please, following notice of motion. Let's separate these. Councillor Howell.
Sure. Put the first recommendation on the floor that council approve a 50% decrease in residential taxes for the 2020 district budget.
Second. Councillor Calkin, discussion. Councillor Norbury.
So I'll get started. I'll start off by saying that I'm not in favor of the current recommendation. A lot of my comments are on the broad spectrum, so I'll start with the broad. And I think cutting taxes across the board is too broad and it isn't targeted enough. And that's what this should be about, right? It should be about helping people affected by COVID, or else this tax cut is an abuse of a situation to get a desired outcome, right? Councillor Howe, you said we need to show courage and leadership. To me, courage is having to make the tough decisions sometimes, and not the easy decision to cut taxes, in a difficult time, because we need to be financially responsible. We need to be looking at the future, and we need to think about what we need this tax revenue to do moving forward. I think this is, if I could use the analogy of we're pouring a gallon of water into a glass to get a cup of water. Well, yeah, the glass is full, but we have a bunch of water on the ground. Because, and I think that analogy is apt in that how much of our community is empty? How many of these residential homes are not owned by residents? How many are owned by banks, owned by non-Tumbler residents? They're owned by large corporations and staff housing, and it doesn't address the people that who rent in town. How does this help them at all? It doesn't. It helps the landlords. How many store clerks, how many employees own homes and tumblers? Some, but all. How are we helping them? And other questions: how many people in our community are actually affected due to income loss because of COVID-19? We don't have any of that information. We're just making this, in my opinion, a knee-jerk reaction to try and help, but I don't think it's targeted enough. We're losing out on revenue that we'll need in the future. How many people are still working in all of this? Many people are still working, and let's also look at what the federal and the provincial government is doing to help those who have been affected. You know, today is the first day that people can apply online to receive $2,000 a month from the federal government, as well as $500 from the provincial government that gets paid directly to your landlord. And there's even a couple of $1,000s of one-time payments that you're able to make, you're able to receive, from different organizations. So you're looking at $2,500 a month, and if that was a yearly paycheck, that'd be $30,000 a year. You know, that's not too bad. So, and those are only the people that have lost income due to COVID-19, which there are many people who are not. Yes, that's what I got there.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? I'd like to kind of talk about a couple things you mentioned, Councillor Norbury, the targeted audience. I have a hard time wrapping my head around that one. I think this COVID-19 situation has affected every single person, not only in Tumbler Ridge, but in British Columbia. The fact of everybody is expected to self-isolate and social distance, it's affecting everybody's lives on a day-to-day basis. And the end zone, we have no idea when it's going to be. So to argue the fact that you would like more data to find a more targeted audience, I disagree with, because I think this is affecting every single person in British Columbia, let alone Tumbler Ridge. Renters, yes, absolutely. They do get a provincial boost, but the government also told the renters they don't have to pay for 3 months. So the landlords that are having to pay the bills, the mortgages and the expenses, are having to do that with no income from rent, because the federal government said they don't have to pay rent for 3 months. So I disagree. I guess what I'm trying to say is I disagree with your argument of wanting to reach a targeted audience of who's affected by COVID, because I'll argue that every single person is affected by COVID. And I'm in favor of this this decrease because it does affect every single person in Tumbler Ridge, and it's a blanket. And yeah, I think it was a great idea. Councillor Kirby.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I'm not in favor of this motion at the 50%. I think, you know, we've had a lot of hits this year, whether it's our resources, climate change, caribou, you know, forest fires, pipelines. You start thinking about it, and this just kind of came at the end of it. You know, when we did our tax rates, we didn't go with what was recommended by staff. We went at a lower rate, and that's because we're in a good position, and we have a low tax base right now. Now, this pandemic, yes, it's touched everybody. I do believe that, but I think, you know, we just review and revise as we keep going. And at this point, I don't think we have enough information, and I don't think this is targeted properly at this point. We still have another month where we can hold on, defer this for now, and look at this a little bit later. Maybe do the economic report on it like we do for some of our events. What is it called? Economic impact report. Take a look at that. Give it that month where we can actually, let's see what happens. You know, Mike Burney said today that maybe we're not hit that bad. Maybe we're going to see a change because we're so early in this as of right now. I think, you know, we've taken steps so far. I think the best course of action is what we're all doing, is that's, you know, staying at home, trying to flatten the curve. Let's see what happens in the next month and maybe look at this again. At this point, I will be voting against both recommendations.
Councillor Norbury, did you have something? Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I'm also not a big fan of cutting taxes. I realize everybody's impacted, but also very few people so far have lost their jobs. Most of the people are still working. And I realize that the homeowners would benefit, and a lot of the rental properties are probably not getting the income that they're supposed to be getting because people aren't paying their rent even though they're working, which is something that somebody actually should look at. But I think if you start cutting taxes, especially at 50%, sooner or later you're gonna have to make that back. I know we have a reserve, but I just don't like the idea of always using our, just relying on that reserve for down the road.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. And I just wanted to clarify, when it comes to the landlords, the BC government is giving people $500 a month to pay their rent. So yes, there may be someone saying that you can't kick people out for the next 3 months. But if somebody's responsible and they know that these initiatives are out there, it shouldn't take a huge hit to the landlords because, I'm speculating, but I do see the cost of rents in Tumbler Ridge. They're not exceptionally high. And $500 could cover a large portion of a smaller condo, right? So it would alleviate the burden a lot on the renter with these great initiatives the government is already putting in place. And from what I understand, they just sort of announced the small business owner, so to speak. It's sort of up in the air. Well, I'm self-employed. How can I get these benefits? And they finally sort of said that if you're self-employed, aka a small business owner, you are eligible for the COVID benefit. So it will help a lot of people.
Yeah, I agree. Councillor Jaczynski.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I'm not in favor of the motion or the recommendation of the motion currently. One of the things I did was reach out to the realtors, and there is between the two of them approximately 220 rentals. That's not including private. So that's quite a bit, and that's a lot of families, and they wouldn't benefit from this tax decrease at all because they're renters. They're not homeowners. So I think we miss a lot of the residents, and if we want to be fair, I think we should look at something that will benefit the whole community as a whole. And the other thing is, like, what is our long-term plans for the community? We have to look out for that as well. Like, this is a temporary fix. This has been ongoing for 3 months, but enacted in our community for 1 month. The hard thing here is, yeah, we could do a decrease 50% now, but that's not long-term. We don't know how long it's gonna last. We've had mines shut down in our community for 3+ years. There was never a tax decrease. In the previous report they said that when the mine shut down, the tax rate goes up to cover the services. So we have to look at down the future. So, and that's why I was pretty heavy on the tax rate increase on day one. So I'm just not in favor of the recommendation.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Councillor Kaufman.
Thank you, Your Worship. I actually support the recommendation. I've reached out. I didn't reach out to the realtors, but just obviously we've been fairly busy at the business I run, talking with residents, renters, and owners. And there's people that actually own and rent, and then just own. And most of those people I've talked to that own and rent are talking about if they get a rebate, they're going to send that back to their renter. So if they get a rebate on their tax, that could mean 2 months or 3 months at half the price. Maybe not everybody's going to do that, but I think that's what we hope, that owners that own, whether it's apartments or houses in this community, would send that benefit back to the people that are renting their houses. I mean, I think it was quite the idea of the motion that came forward as a notice of motion, something I would have never thought about. But I think this is the time to help our residents, whether they own and rent or if they're just owners. The trying times, we're flattening the curve right now, but they're not going to release any, they're going to take any restraints back off the province of BC for 2 months. They've already said that. That's because they're worried about an impact coming back. So I think this is a benefit to our residents, and whether they own and rent or whether they're owners. So I'll be supporting the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Hall.
What is so bad against a landlord? Why do we think it is so bad that a landlord gets a tax break? Why is that a bad thing? Because they're a renter and a landlord gets a tax break? Big deal. Some of those landlords were people that paid taxes here for 30 years. They have a house, they've moved into a different industry, they've gone somewhere else, and they rent their home. Big deal. They shouldn't deserve a bit of a tax break. And yeah, they can absolutely pass it on down the line to the renter if they choose to. They don't have to. You're right. It is not going to put the money in the pockets of absolutely everybody in this community. It's not. It's not. But it gets pretty close. And I think it's a fantastic opportunity for us to show the citizens at Tumbler Ridge that we hear them, that we're listening. Tell that to the 34 people that got laid off over at the inn. We all got the letter. If you've read your email, 34 people are laid off from one business in Tumbler Ridge. They've got to pay their rent or mortgage. And if it affects some of those people, it's going to help them make these payments. Right? Like that's the idea. That's the premise behind this. It's not perfect. I get it. It's not perfect. And you can't, some people are going to benefit if some people won't. Same as the government programs that are rolling out. Some people will benefit. Some people won't from those benefits. But this is an opportunity where the numbers are laid out. We had a $1.1 million surplus in our budget this year. So that's where I came up with the numbers of 100% for business for 600,000, 50% for business is 500,000, or sorry, for residents is $500,000. We haven't once talked about in this. I'm not in favor of it because of this. I'm not in favor of it because, okay. Have you thought once about this is going to cost us less in the District of Tumbler Ridge? We're spending less money as the District of Tumbler Ridge. Our buildings are shut down. Right? You look confused, Bernie, but our buildings are shut down. We have no people using it. We have no use for staff in there that are doing cleaning. We've laid off all our casual employees. They're not running an ice plant. They're not, all kinds of different savings in there. Savings on lights. There's all kinds of savings in the District of Tumbler Ridge while we shut it down. Nobody's using this building. Nobody's coming in and out of the doors. Right? We have no need for overtime. There's all kinds of savings. Price of fuel is cut in half right now. Not once have we talked about that. We don't need this money this year. This is a great year to put this in place. We're saving money. There's no reason for us to collect these taxes from the residents. Yeah, in the future, we're going to have to up our taxes, and we're going to have to really look at the depreciation on some of our assets and figure out what we're going to pay and how we're going to get to that point. But we don't need to fund depreciation to 100% either. There are other ways to do it. You can get grants. You can put a policy in place that says we are going to put aside 80%, but try to get the grants. I called around some different communities. That's what they're doing. They're not getting all the depreciation. The councils 4 or 5 before of us or 6 before of us, they didn't put all the money aside that we needed to do our roads, but we had it. This is a one-time thing, and it's an opportunity for every one of us to say to the residents, we hear you. We're trying. We're going to try something. And think about the additional spin-offs to this. If you're one of the only, you imagine the spin-offs you hear from this? This could be a national style news event where a community reaches out and cuts their taxes by 50% for the residents and 100% for their businesses. And then you get the positive feedback from that. People find out about you. They want to come here. Maybe they want to start a business here. Maybe they want to buy a house here. They find out how cheap our homes are. There's excellent spin-offs to this that we don't even think about or don't even talk about. I really, really think this is a time that we should be doing this. I would, if there's any debate that I can help change your mind or anything I'm missing here, now's the time. Right now, from what I've heard from 4 of you, we don't got this. We got 3 in favor and 4 against.
Thank you, Councilor Wojcinski.
What about, I'm sure you've all heard about one of our neighboring communities. They did a tax decrease of 25%. They don't have the services that we provide. And do you think they maybe have been overcharging their residents 25%? Would the residents here say the same thing here? Hey, we're automatically getting a 50% decrease in our taxes. Have we been paying too much all along? Is that not a thing to consider? Maybe we have all this extra money. Like, why are people wanting to pay taxes here if we got all this money in the bank? What's it for? And that's why I always go back to, it is for things down in for the long term of the community. And I think that we have to stick to our guns here and follow the long-term plans here. It is. I'm really on the fence on this one, just because yeah, we do have a lot of money in the bank in the savings, right? But we need it for something. We're not just making money for nothing. We provide a service to our community and we want to continue that. So maybe we do want a splash park down the road, or we want to bring more, entice more businesses, have a more beautiful downtown core, like 1.1 million to a whole new downtown core. That might bring in a lot more business than this one, you know? And it's tough to just say, we're not hitting all of the residents, and that's my major concern right now. Is we aren't with the renters and people that are here. And yeah, there are people that have lived here a very long time. They own homes, they rent them out, but are they in the community still? No, they could be in another province, they could be in another country, and they're making these benefits elsewhere. So from our tax break, and I think we should look at other options. Like if we're going to do a decrease of 50%, the average homeowner maybe is $700. Could we do that in another option? Is there other options? Can we do like a public outreach? Can we send the flyers in the mail and ask people what they would like to see, or how can we help them differently? Or there's got to be other options than just a one-time tax reduction for 1 year. That's just my only concern there.
Thank you, Councillor Kirby.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. It is a tougher decision when you see it's your local mom and pop shops, or this is the first time that it's not been all the mine workers. But regardless of what the amount is, I don't think we have the proper information yet. I think it's too soon to make this call. It has nothing about helping our residents out or any of that. I've talked to a lot of people as well. And at first they were like, oh, exactly what we need. And then people start thinking about it and looking how it's going to affect them down the road. Like if we're going to offer this up, it's 50% and 100% and never ask to make that back again because we've saved it this year. What people are worried about is they like this community for the services we provide. So we make a cut like this, they're going to say, what are we losing next? Because usually with something like this, comes the loss. Might not come today, but they're going to notice it down the road. At this point, do we need to go to those extremes? We could be fine at the rates we are and see how it goes. I am not against this motion for the amounts. I'm against it for the timing. I want to make sure when we do something like this, and you will have and I could vote for it, but it's not right now. I don't think we're at that point.
Thank you, Councillor Kalka.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. So just a couple points from Councillor Majinski and Councillor Kirby. So we actually all received emails, and I'm pretty sure we all have, and that was from the chamber in regards to the layoffs, and those are businesses that were doing the layoffs. And Councillor Howell mentioned the one that we received today from the Tumber Ridge Inn in regards to how many layoffs they've had over there. Never mind the decrease in the other businesses that are still staying open, whether it's for takeout or delivery. And then there's obviously the beer and wine store in the end, and he said that's also down as well. So I get a neighboring community did 25% reduction, and why they did it, maybe they could afford it as well. And I don't think they're being overcharged as residents there, and I don't think our residents here are being overcharged. And the reason I say that, I don't think we have a 1.1 million surplus. That 1.1 million or 1.6 million that it works out to be was talked about, that is set to go into some asset management. We all talked as a surplus. It's not. It's actually eventually going to be adjusted into some of our asset management, whether it's building or wherever. This is a year maybe we don't put any of that money into asset management until next year. Do we tax our residents more? No. I don't think we need to tax them more next year. I think we can hold the taxes at once staff comes to us next year and sees where we're at. Whether it's saving on fuel, Councillor Howell mentioned, saving on some wages because they've had to lay off all the casuals. Maybe more layoffs coming once the report's done up, who knows? But that's why I support that, is because it's 1.1 million that's going to sit there and eventually put into asset management somewhere. Mr. Wall talked about building envelopes, but we haven't got all that reports yet. So this money's going to sit there and not go anywhere right away. So that's why I support the motion of helping the residents out. And I would think if you're renting within the District of Tumber Ridge, most people will either be watching this video tonight or going to hear it on the street, whether it's defeated or passed. And I would hope if I was a renter, I'd reach out to my landlord saying, I know you got a discount. Is there anything you can give me to help me out? Whether it's somebody at the mine that lost their job, and there has been people at the mine, maybe they decide to take off because they're worried about bringing something home to their families. Some people are actually sleeping in their holiday trailers right now, so they're away from their families. So I think it is the right time to help our residents out. 100% would never have thought of this motion that Councillor Howell thought of. When he read it out last week, or 2 weeks ago, let me tell you, I heard lots at the store the next day about some people couldn't believe that motion was even put on the floor like that. Somebody thought that quick of something to help these residents out. So I will be supporting the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor. So, I think there's a lot of speculation in that if we give tax decrease to landlords, that they're going to pass it along to their renters. We don't have any guarantees of that. How many people will actually do that? I don't think that's a fair argument. But I mean, it is an argument regardless. We're talking about how much money we're actually saving due to our buildings being closed. Mr. Wall gave us a prime example. We're going to lose less than $100,000. Yet we're proposing that we're going to cut $1 million from our revenues, which we're going to need in the coming years. Like, I believe that there's going to be a recession coming. Now, the way that we need to handle recessions is we need to increase services, we need to increase our costs, we're going to need revenue to do that. And that's why we should be doing that. Now, if we're talking about cutting jobs to pay for this tax cut, now we're saying that we're cutting jobs if we're afraid of other people that we're concerned of, they're cutting jobs, and so that we can offer a tax cut. I think that's counterintuitive in that, yeah, we're cutting jobs so we can save jobs. I personally don't believe that cutting taxes saves jobs. I'm sorry.
Okay, Councillor Hall.
Yeah, I'm not leaning out and saying what you just said there at all. That's not what I'm saying. But I am talking about the savings. There is the potential and the possibility that there may be further layoffs. That is a savings. I'm not saying that there is, but there is the potential that there is. There already has been with our temporary or what's the word? Casual workers, right? The savings is something that I think about is that's money that we don't need that money, but we're still going to collect it. We collect this money so that we have a rec center, so that we have a visitor information center, so we have a senior center. But when we're not using any of that stuff, why are we collecting money to fund all that stuff, right? That's the savings that I'm talking about. There's also savings in the increase to the productivity for our staff. You want to get paperwork done over the community center, there's absolutely nobody over there to interrupt you. Right? You just go to work, you do your thing, and you leave. Same as here. Nobody's coming in and out of the doors interrupting our staff. There's an increase to productivity. There's less people traveling the roads. The graders can get up and down the roads quicker. There's better productivity done out there. But the anticipated savings from another spot that we haven't talked about is our fee for service and grant and aids. Right? That's something we haven't really discussed yet. And when I talk about savings that we can see from the museum, the saving we could see from the library, the visitor information center, and the geopark. These are all groups that we give large sums of money to do a service in our community, that they also can get money, 75% back from the government. If the museum can show they've had a 30% decrease in revenue, you can get 75% of your wages covered. So that is a savings that those non-for-profit groups and grant can come back and say, guys, we really went in and crunched the numbers for you, and we were able to save some money as well. So we don't need the $475,000 you set aside for us this year, or whatever the number is for the museum, or we don't need the entire $380,000 or whatever it is for the library, right? We only need this. So there will be a savings there. This is an opportunity. If they can, I'm not saying that the library for sure is a group that can do that, because I don't know how that's going to work if they can show that they have a 30% decrease in revenue, but I know that you can do that with the museum. The museum should be able to go and say, yeah, we have a 30% decrease. We need 75% for these two people. There has to be, all these companies are shut down, right? All these groups are shut down. There has to be savings that they are also going to pass back to the District of Tumbler Ridge. I would think there would be, because I'm going to go out on a limb here and I'm going to say it right now. If there isn't, they're going to have a heck of a hard time getting my vote next year that they want the same amount of money. This is an opportunity for them to save money. They should be doing it. That savings is going to come back to the District of Tumbler Ridge and therefore back to our taxpayers. We don't need all of that money from them. That's just another point to think about.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you. I have a couple. First, because they're so fresh in our memory about the cost savings to our potential nonprofits. What you're talking about is for for-profit businesses, not potentially nonprofits. There are, I can only speak to a couple of organizations, but I know that some of them have followed similar, I followed the district in terms of casuals, but it's just the casuals that are being laid off, right? The regular full-time staff for some organizations are still there, still continuing to provide programming or what have you, because there still is work to be done, just like with our district staff. So I don't think the cost savings are going to come out to like $1 million.
It's going to be some.
I think in the future, this is an opportunity for these nonprofits that they can show a little bit of initiative and cost savings to the district. But that'll come into play when we're setting our tax rates for next year. And the second point I want to talk about, we're talking about how can we show our residents that we're listening, that we're caring about them. Well, one of my biggest issues is that we're not taxing, or we're proposing a tax cut to people that are not residents of Tumbler Ridge, they're not specific to Tumbler Ridge. Now we're going to be losing out on, like, if we say our town is 40% empty, we're going to be losing out on 40% of potential revenue coming in. So that's 40% less that we can give back to those people. And just some quick math would be that we could help people out doubly so if we keep our tax rates in helping people, right? Like, how can we help people? We're talking about our businesses need help, our people need help. Well, why don't we support our businesses with this money? Why don't we give $50,000 to the food bank? Why don't we provide gift certificates to families in need to our local restaurants? Right? Those are ways that we can target people that really need it, and it supports our local businesses, it supports our residents. And it's a way that we can show that we're helping them, but targeting people that need it. Not everybody actually needs this cut, right? Like, I can speak for myself. I'm happy paying my taxes. I can afford to pay my taxes, and even if I did lose income due to my job, I'm receiving $2,500 from the federal government and the provincial government to help me pay for these costs, right? So, yeah.
I'll call the question on the first recommendation. All in favor? Opposed? Defeated. Thank you. Second recommendation, Councilor Hall.
The council approve 100% decrease in the business tax class 2020 budget.
Discussion? Councilor Hall.
Sorry that we called the question on that one. I had one more point that I wanted to make. But if you wanted to get the $500,000 back from the residents, right? If you felt that this is so much money and we're gonna feel so bad that we're giving this money back to our residents, it's an increase to all taxpayers in the residential tax bracket of 10% once. You implement the money back in, the $500,000 that we took out, the $500,000 that they're still paying is $1 million. You add 10% to that for 5 years, you've got your $500,000 back. That's all it would take to get this money back. And there's your timeline. There's the time that you need to figure out, did we need to implement this? Do we need to get that money back? Yep, we need to get that money back. And all of those renters would have got that money back. When it comes to businesses, same thing. It's an increase that we can put in. It's $120,000 that we need to get in addition to the $600,000 that we will get in 2022. That's all you need to get. $120,000 extra per year for 5 years gets you your $600,000 back. Businesses need this at this time. We've moved on from residential. I'm completely disgusted that we did not pass that motion, but businesses absolutely need this. Absolutely. 0 people staying in our hotels right now. 0.
Yep.
That is a business that needs this.
I agree with you. I'm in favor of this motion as well. It's going to be a new landscape, a new atmosphere once this is all done. So I'm afraid what the future holds. Councilman Orber.
Thank you, Mayor. So we barely agreed to a 3% increase on residential. How would the residents of Tumbler Ridge take a 10% increase for the next 5 years to make this up, right? Like, we don't want to raise taxes, right? I think, let me stay on topic here. I don't want to go off on a tangent. Should be focused on the business. So I'm not in favor of this one. And the reason why is, thank you, Councillor Howe, for asking for what businesses actually fall inside of the business tax class. And if anyone looked at that, we would see that there are 180 businesses in the business tax class. 102-ish of those are not Tumbler Ridge businesses. They are BC government. They are, well, I mean, Spectra. They're tech. They're not small business owners, and I think is who we need to be targeting, and we can't do that. We can't just say, sorry, you're a small business, you get it, these guys don't. So, and the tax revenue that we collect off of these businesses, if we can find a correct mode of helping these businesses, we can help them doubly so, right? And so again, like we can use that money for good to target these businesses that are hurting, right? Like we can go to the inn and we can say, we are going to guarantee $100,000 of business for you if we're going to do this targeted outreach on families that need meals in their homes. Right? That is 1/5 of this money that we're talking about. We still have 4 other great ideas how we can support businesses moving forward, right? So now, if we're going to cut 100%, if we are going to look at how are we going to recuperate that, I think we can sort of take a step back and look at 2014, when everything shut down in 2014, to when things sort of got back up on their feet, right? So if we cut 100% business taxes in 2014, it would take 6 years until things got up and running again, 5. So then we need to recoup the money lost over 5 years. So that'd be an increase, and Mr. Wall did a very good job in his report. He agreed to increase taxes 18%. This year, we didn't even want to raise them 2%. Well, we did raise 2% for the cost of living. Now, there is no guarantees that this cost will save jobs. And this cut will save jobs. It absolutely won't. I mean, 34 people laid off from the inn. Will cutting their taxes 100% bring all those people back? It won't. It might pay for 1 or 2. Will they bring them back? You know, and at what point, like, businesses are supported by residents and communities. Right? The taxes that we collect, we are still providing the costs to those taxes. We're still plowing the roads, we're still providing water to their businesses, we're still doing all that we can, and we are going to be using this money to bring more people in so they can spend in their businesses. Right? Like, and that's where we should be spending this money in, and not just giving a free pass to people that own businesses that aren't in Tumbler Ridge. Right? So we're actually doing a disservice to the small businesses in Tumbler Ridge by offering this massive tax cut to 60% of the businesses in that tax class that can afford to pay.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kirby?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I just want to go back to a comment that Councillor Howell made about we're missing the mark at what kind of a news story this could be. That to me is inappropriate. That is reckless in my thinking, if that's why we're going to do it. So we can be the front page of the Peace River, the newspapers in the area. I'm really disappointed in that one. Yes, this is going to be a hard choice. And I'm going to be one of the 4 that voted against that, and that's going to be something that I'm okay with, because I've also got, I've listened to the residents as well. This again here, this 100% business reduction, I can't vote for it, but again, I will be recommending that we bring this back before the time is up in May when we have to make these decisions, and looking at the information, giving this a little bit of a longer kind of stay. Yeah, draw it out. I want to get more information.
Thank you. Councillor Howell?
Yeah, I'll make a comment back to that there. So it wasn't about being a news story. Maybe that's how it came out. I was getting a little worked up there, but it's possible positive spin-offs from such a cut. Good exposure for Tumbler Ridge. Could attract business in coming years or residents if we put the right spin on this. Lowest taxes in BC, Canada community, cuts taxes by 100% to help its citizens attract businesses and new residents. So that was the idea put behind it, is that, you can put a positive spin on this. There could be something else that comes out of that. But, again, who cares where the business is located or where their headquarters are? Oh, we're going to help a resident who lives in Fort St. John because he owns that business. The business he has is in Tumbler Ridge. It provides employment for locals. It provides industry in our community. Yeah, Spectra Gas, this is their what is considered in their business unit. This isn't the light industrial, this isn't the heavy industrial, which that's where we get our majority of taxes from, a Spectra Energy or those types of groups. This is what is classified by the British Columbia government as business taxes, not the industrial. So to make that type of a statement is not a fair way to say that as well, that these are the groups that can afford to pay for it. I mean, again, there's nothing, these are businesses that we get to tax because they're within our community and it helps them. I don't know. I think it's
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Howe. It is a very helping hand, and I think no different than the federal government and the provincial government coming up with all these pots of money to try and get into every single Canadian's pockets to help, because these are unprecedented times, and yeah. I'm in support of this. Hopefully it will prevent some of our small businesses from leaving town or closing the doors completely. Councillor Kalka.
Yeah, so I'll just kind of mention that. I mean, I do support the motion. And things I'll mention is, I've talked to some local business, one's Home Hardware. I actually emailed everybody as well. But look at the costs, the extra costs with COVID-19, putting up dividers, cleaning your tills, whether it's after every customer, whatever your protocols may be. And whether they laid off a bunch of staff and now they're having to do deliveries or takeout, same concept. There's a cost to that, right? So this COVID-19 is not only, well, we're gonna get some money back from the government. Well, not every business qualifies for that. Same as the home things. Not every homeowner will qualify for that. There's other reasons why they don't qualify for it. Maybe they don't live in that home. They don't qualify for rentals, stuff like that. But it's the same as the businesses. Not every business will qualify for whatever the government is going to come out with. One they've done, they're talking about getting rid of our school tax and stuff like that for small business. Not every small business will qualify. There's certain criteria you have to meet. But it's also the expenses of the COVID-19 to our local businesses, what they have to do inside their businesses. The extra cleaning, putting up the dividers, one-way operational signage going up and down aisles, stuff like that. That's a huge cost to a business. Yeah, maybe they're a bit busier. Does that cost actually make it break even? I can almost guarantee you it does not. So I fully support this. I think it is. Supported the last motion, support this one. I think it is the right thing to do for our businesses. We've already had businesses shut down within our own community. Some of them had no choice but to shut down. Now, whether they reopen, hairdressers, our nail salon, all that, where all these businesses actually reopen when they lift all the ruling and orders by the BC government, by Bonnie Henry. Some of these businesses might not come back to Tunbridge, might not feasibly be able to open in a brick and mortar and have to move into their houses. Well, there goes a downtown core again when we have a bunch of these local, whether it's a hairdresser or the beauty salon, that has to move back into their house because the money that they had saved up to keep paying rent can't do it. And I'll guarantee you it's going to happen. And then there's no downtown core again, which I've heard everybody talking about. Well, we got to help the business. Let's do something for the downtown core. This is what you need to do. This is what we need to do as a council. This is what we do for our businesses. We all got an email today from the Tunbridge Inn. I'll mention them again. He states right in there. States right in there that he's really hoping that this council looks at it. I don't think he's the only business. Home Hardware did the same thing. I've talked to Keys over at the dollar store. They're hoping for the same thing. We're going to lose businesses if we don't step up. I can't speak for Keys or Christine, but it's not good. It's not good. I'm not sure if you guys reached out to those businesses, but you probably should have. Some of those businesses aren't going to be here very soon. That's a scary thought. Very, very scary. Never mind losing businesses. When you start losing businesses, you're going to lose some residents real quick right behind them. Where they're going to go, who knows? I'll support that motion.
Thank you. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you. So to clarify, in the document,
Okay, next, yeah.
Go ahead.
So in the document, there's 182 businesses, right? Like, we want to help businesses. Well, $600,000 can buy a lot of cleaners. It can buy a lot of these things that are businesses are needing. Let's have those businesses come to us with these initiatives, and we should give it to them. Like, absolutely, that's how we should help them. But I did the quick math between BC, Alberta, Tech Resources, and the Crown. Over half of the businesses in the tax class rate are there. So if we're not taxing them, who can afford it, that have the tax revenue, the federal and the provincial government are not cutting taxes, they can still be giving this, so we can take that money and do some good. We can do some good initiatives. So that we're just losing out, we're pouring all this water on the floor for no reason. when we could be targeting these businesses that need help. And this is where maybe businesses need to get creative, like Chamber needs to get creative on how we can help them. Because I'm not against losing this revenue. I'm not against helping out businesses, but we can help these businesses out to a tune of $600,000 versus giving them a blanket $300,000 and another $300,000 to businesses that don't require it. Right? Like how can we actually target these businesses that are helped? And we can try and figure out inventive ways to get residents in purchasing from these businesses, right? Like it was never the municipality's responsibility to keep businesses afloat, right? Like is it our job always to be giving them money so they can stay open? It's up to the resident population that are supposed to be going in and purchasing these goods. Now, what happens when? Does this mean that we're always going to be on the hook if something goes bad, right? Like I want to help, but not in this 100% tax cut, because we're essentially saying we're going to cut 12 months out of your taxes for however long this is going to last. Like what if this is a 3-month issue? So we're giving them 12 months off for 3, right? Like we need to be a little more targeted is my issue. And we're losing out on revenue that should be gained.
I've got Councilor Majinski, Kirby, Kirkowka, Councilor Kirby.
Oh, thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Of course, I have read all the letters and understand how the businesses are feeling. There's a lot of us who are business owners here at this table. It is the amount and the timing, again, for me. And, we're 1 month in, 100%. I mean, there's Councillor Kirkowka, you were the one that was pushing for an increase of taxes a month ago. Now, you think COVID-19 is the reason to this one piece of the puzzle is enough to go from 3% to 100% decrease? This is what I can't understand is the number. This is it makes no sense.
I disagree. I believe it's a helping hand.
It's a helping hand for sure.
Councilor Majinski.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Just a question maybe towards Mr. Wall on the cost of garbage bins in our community for all the businesses, what the cost is per month,
I believe it's $100.
higher.
Mr. Wall.
I think Councillor Kapoka can give a better answer than I can.
And it's based on a 4-month cycle, and don't hold me to the exact number, but we have 2 garbage bins, and it's $435.55, I believe.
Each?
For the 3-month cycle.
So
That includes the 3 pickups a week,
that would
which
be
is
one of
too much.
those ways to target a business is to maybe waive that fee, because that is a service that we provide in the community. And if that is every 4 months, that potentially could be a pretty good significant savings for one or more businesses in our community. I think we get into a lot of these debates because we are a very forward-thinking community. We're always ahead of it. When we were debating shutting down our community center, Vic, museum, that was before a lot of people were even thinking this. Like we were very heated about a lot of that, and it was very contentious at the time because we were so far in it before everybody else. Everybody else is kind of, we're like before, we get on this before a lot of other communities on, and always.
Trend centers.
We are, and I kind of want to go back to what Councillor Kirby says is it's too soon. Like I could 100% follow these recommendations in 3 months. Plain and simple. But right now, a month in, it's a hard sway for me. But we relook at this in 3 months, sure. But right now, I think it's too soon, and that's my personal opinion right now.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Kirkowka.
3 months is too late. That's just my first comment on that. I think it's too late because it's already said and done. So I'll mention the comment Councilor Kirby mentioned to me or questioned me on. I wish you would have, and I understand the order of questions, so not your fault. But 3%, you bet. COVID-19 wasn't around either. When I argued that we should increase, I own a business. I was fine with the increase. And then COVID-19 come around. It's been here a month, everybody says. It's been here longer than that. It's been in the country longer than that as well. Just not diagnosed or treated or tested on or whatever. It's been here a lot longer than we think. So, yeah, I was totally in favor of increase in business tax. Did I hear about it from some of the businesses in Tillman? Sure did. Let me tell you, I'm sure hearing from businesses today. No, we have all the hairdressers shut down in Tumble Ridge. That's due to an order from Dr. Henry, which I fully support. We have the beauty salon or the nail tech, she's shut down. We have restaurants that are now decided to shut down, not reopen. The steakhouse has made a decision to close down right now. I believe the other day when I was talking to the Tumble Ridge hotel over there, I think there was 3 guests at the Trent. 3 guests in the hotel. Right? So that didn't happen a month ago when we argued tax increase or decrease or where we said it. Unprecedented times now. COVID-19 came in and look at our economy. I mean, we got people that at the mine, if they're not feeling well, they're asked to stay home for 2 weeks with pay because they don't want to infect the mine sites. That's costing that employer out there a huge lot of money to be doing that. You know? Air Canada not flying in Fort St. John no more. Anybody know what? Why would they make a business decision like that to stop flights? What do you think that's going to do to this area? And we're worried about giving 100% back to the businesses on their tax decrease, or the 50% that we just defeated in the residentials. I think we got tough times coming, and this is a time. Yeah, I think, you know, I like the idea of asset management. I sat on that board when we first started going through it with staff, and to me this year, if we're going to be 600,000 less in our asset management, whether it's for buildings or water or sewer, I think this is now. It's not 3 months from now. 3 months is too late. You know, when we're hearing from businesses that are emailing us, Tumble Ridge Inn, the Home Hardware, Jan definitely sent an email out saying where they sat. It's not good. We start losing these other big businesses, whether it's the Inn or Home Hardware. There's more to follow them. More to follow them because all of a sudden residents have to go to town for a paint. Well, those residents right now are shopping fairly good locally, I'll tell you that. Lots of people are trying to stay home and shop, and guarantee every business is appreciative, does not make up for it. I mean, Joanne, you guys own a business, right? I know I heard from not from the 2 owners, but I heard from staff of it, and they're hurting. So, you know, when I hear that from staff at a mechanic shop, which I support locally, that's where I go for my stuff unless it's a warranty issue on my truck. And I'm hearing it from staff over there, that's scary. And then we're here arguing over that. And we say we're all business owners. I'll tell you, I totally agreed with increasing business tax. I know you didn't. We had this disagreement and chatted afterwards, couldn't believe it. Councillor Howe couldn't believe it. I stood up and said, geez, I support it because I own a business. I think we should. I'm telling you right now, 100% support, 100% decreasing our business tax. Not for my business, but for all these other businesses that we can hope to keep in Tumble Ridge. And I don't care where their heads offices are, Councillor Norby. I understand it. I went through the list too, and I totally agree with you. Not all those guys need it. It's a blanket, and it's too bad we can't pick and choose. Talking with Mr. Wall, you can't pick and choose. You know, we talk about, you mentioned, a little bit of a rant. I'd like you to explain to me when you say buy cleaners and then get cleaners. You tell me you're going to have district staff come in and clean, whether it's my business or other businesses? Because I don't think that's legal. I don't believe it's legal. I'd be curious if you got staff's opinion on that. That's all I have.
Yeah, we'd have to be very careful on supporting business in any way. Councillor Howe?
Yeah, and I mean, and to follow that up, I don't know the political spectrum that falls under, but that is to say that you think you're better at distributing the money than the businesses themselves. If the business has the money in their own pocket, they'll decide where they think it's best to spend it, rather than us come in and say, well, we're gonna buy $100,000 in meals from you. No, that's not for us to do. Let the business owner figure, put the money back in their jeans, let them decide where that money has to be spent. And a perfect example of, you know, you pick out, the limited BC companies. Yeah, there's some limited BC companies, but you don't know if they're from Tumble Ridge or Timbuktu. You know, you have no idea where they are, and to use that as a ploy, use a guy like Sam, right? Sam is not from Tumble Ridge. He owns the TR Inn, but Sam employs 38 people in Tumble Ridge. 34 of them are laid off, right? When he gets the tax break, he puts it back into his business that is in Tumble Ridge. He needs the money to make that business continue to succeed. That's the idea here. Who cares where they live? Their business is in Tumble Ridge, and we want those businesses to succeed in Tumble Ridge. That's why they need the money.
Thank you. Councillor Norbury?
Thank you. And, you know, to clarify, Councillor Howe, TRN is listed under a Tumble Ridge business. It's not listed under Sam, you know, it's somebody who's not a resident.
But he's not.
So.
But he's not. It's an example.
Excuse me, sir.
It's an example. It's an example.
Councillor Norbury?
I think we're putting a lot of weight on an all or nothing situation. Will this tax cut keep businesses going in Tumbler Ridge? I am sorry, I don't think that this will be the make or break that keeps it open. Right? What I do potentially seeing is this is an issue, and if they can't pay their taxes and they have to shut down, when they shut down, they don't pay their taxes. That is a tragedy to our community. But that could still happen whether or not we cut these taxes. And then what happens if we don't have these taxes for the people that are here? Now we don't have this money to help them. You know, if we're talking about, I'll keep going back to half these people are not Tumbler residents. So if we say to the businesses, you know, we're going to tax you at 1, we're going to give you 2. Like, that's what could potentially get you, right? And when, you know, to clarify my comments about cleaners, I didn't say cleaning company. We can buy cleaning supplies, right? Like, I mean, maybe it's not legal, okay? I mean, I could be wrong. But we can think of creative ways that we can help support our businesses, right? And 1 gets you 2, right? And that's my concern, right? Like, we are hamstring ourselves in how we can effectively help them because we're losing on this revenue for over half the tax class that can and should be helping our community.
Thank you, Councillor Lehman.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I'm still not in favor of cutting taxes, but I'm more likely to support this. But businesses also got to realize that if they're getting 100% break or whatever break they get, it's going to cost them down the road. And I know Councillor Howe thinks that we have 5 years or 6 years to recover that money. Well, okay. So next year we raise it 10% or 15%. There's going to be a cost down the road. And I can see, obviously these businesses are hurting. I mean, that's a no-brainer. But they got to realize that it's going to cost them down the road.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think any cut we decide to make today, I think definitely needs to be made up in the future as well. Got Councillor Majinski, Councillor Howe.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. So if a business closes and cannot reopen, we're going to be out that tax money regardless, or the potential revenue if we were to go through with this. And just to reiterate what Councillor Lehman said is, we will have to recuperate this at some point, I would imagine. And my only concern is our businesses here, we take pride in and we try to support them as much as we can, but this isn't just here. This is going to be all over the province, and our rental rates and our tax rates are a heck of a lot lower than anywhere else in the province, guaranteed. So, you know, it is, in my mind, you know, not a lot of money, $600,000, and that's not the issue. It is, again, a time thing. I think it is a bit soon to make this, because you never know, like the province might be chipping in more. They're working on this constantly too, and it's always evolving. They've even said it every day on their updates. It's constantly evolving. They're looking at other avenues and how they're going to get money out to business owners, to renters, to people that are being laid off. So I think we're just in it too fast as of right now.
Thank you, Councillor Howe.
So whatever it was, 6-7 years ago, whatever it was, we never budgeted on making $600,000 in investment income either, but we do, right? We make we made $25,000 when we first started on council. That's what we were making in our investment accounts. And now we're making $625,000. We never budgeted for that, but we've spent it, right? We've been good at spending that money. So to me, to say, do we need to make that $600,000 back from the businesses over 5 years? I don't even know that we do need to make that money back over 6 years, or 5 years. If you wanted to, there's a way to do it. Increase taxes once by 18%, you'll get that money back in 5 years. But do we need to? I don't even think we do. But the second point I have is to Mr. Wall is about some of you are concerned about timing and you want to see how far this goes out. Okay, maybe we can bridge the gap here. When does our tax rates have to be into the government? When is our final deadline? When's the last day we could make this pull this off?
Mr. Wall.
You would need to start your readings on May 12th. And that's doing them one day after another.
By the 15th.
With that, if this gets voted down as well, could we bring this potentially back May 12th?
Through notice, motion, prior.
The meeting prior to notice of motion. Okay. And that would provide us another month and a half, 6 weeks, to see if the government's gonna save us, or what's gonna happen, or if we're gonna be shut down for another 3 years.
See a little bit more impact.
Okay.
Councilor Kalka?
Yeah, so just one more comment on, not to bring it up, but I know Councillor Majinski mentioned that if the business doesn't pay taxes or closes and doesn't pay taxes anyways, it doesn't matter. Some of these businesses I talk about actually are rental spaces. So that landlord, whoever owns, is gonna pay the taxes on it anyway, or you hope, right? So that's what you're hoping. There's some benefits to some of these people that rent, so we're talking renters again. But, you know, talking to some of the businesses that do own and they're renting, plan on giving that back to their renters inside those buildings. But what I'm talking about is these businesses right now that are shut down because they had no choices in regards to government orders. You know, to me, if they don't get some help, they may not come back. And I'm sorry, if I have to go to town to get my hair cut, I mean, don't take me wrong, I'm not saying they're closing down, so don't anybody take that wrong. Use it as an example. Well, I might as well shop for my groceries there too. I might as well go to the mechanical shop. I might as well go to the Dollarama. Wherever else, I might as well get my signs made or wherever it is. Because I'm going to be in Dawes Creek anyways. Right, that's my concern is the more and more business we lose, more and more people have to travel out for those businesses, whether it's our dentist. You know, now we have a dentist in town. It was great. It was hard. It was a hard fight to get. You know, everybody had to go to town for dentists. Now we have a dentist in town. Those people have a choice to go to them if they want to. Right, but when you start losing those, like chiropractor now coming to town before COVID-19, well, that stopped me from having to go to Dawson myself as a patient to a chiropractor. Be honest with you, don't worry yourself, do I buy anything out of town unless I can't get it here? But other people, if they were going to Cairo, had an opportunity to go grocery shop and, you know, all the other stuff. Well, if we can keep more and more businesses here, and that impacts less people are going to travel out of town for paint, wood, whatever it may be. Some people are going to still travel out of town no matter what you do. Doesn't matter the pricing in our community from business side. People are still going to travel out because they want to go out. And you can't blame them for not wanting to get out in Grand Prairie for the night or whatever. But that's my concern is if when these businesses start to close, we don't get them back. And then what that does is affects our residents. That's my concern. That's why I support.
Okay, thank you. Anything new? Okay, call the question on the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. Is there any other notice of motions?
After this notice of motion, everything on council business, and maybe I'm wrong. But I'd like to see, you know, whether it's a motion or whatever, but for staff to reach out to these not-for-profit boards, like the Farm Museum, Geopark, Covered Library Association, to find out what they are gonna put their plans as a board, is to be doing. I know I've seen it from the museum and I've sent it all to you guys what they're doing. I think it's only fair that we send it out to everybody. To find out what their boards are planning on doing in regards to the funds they're receiving from the district. Are they looking at doing the same thing? Are they, you know, some layoffs? Are they trying to do this? Are they trying to do that? You know, whether they go after some money through the governments or what? And I'm not sure if that's a notice of motion or if we can do that in council's business. The reason I ask for that is that way we can start getting worked on. We're not waiting another meeting to find out from the boards.
We can do it right now through a motion.
Oh,
I'd like to put that
I'll
through
wait
a
till
motion
council
there.
business if I can.
Okay, okay. I was going to put forward a motion of reconsideration. To reconsider the previous motion that administration prepare a report with implications to do with union and staff positions for layoffs. This was a previous motion that we defeated, but I wanted to bring it back for reconsideration, because I think it's important information that council needs. So, seconder. Councilor Kirby, that was fast. Discussion, Councilor Norbury.
So just ask a clarifying question. So if we pass this now, we're going to be asking for that report?
Correct.
So I'm not in favor.
Sorry. This is the motion to reconsider the motion. Does that make sense?
Bit. Should I save my comments for after?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, any other comment or discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. So the motion, I'll read again, that administration prepare a report with implications to do with union and staff positions for layoffs. Senator, Councillor Howe. Discussion. So the reason, just to clarify, the reason I brought this forward is I believe staff has made some preparations already, as well as some layoffs of casuals. And I think this report is pertinent information for us at this time. That's why I brought it forward. Councillor Norbury and Councillor Howe.
So we're just asking for what they're doing. We're not asking for anything for us to. My concern is with this. It'll create an avenue for us to force staff down in a course of action that we shouldn't be doing. Right? Like we have nothing to do with any sort of staffing. We shouldn't have anything to do with staffing. Yeah, that's my question.
Yeah, this motion is for a report for asking what staff is doing to prepare during the COVID time. So what they have done already as far as layoffs and what they're preparing in the future. I don't believe staffing is a council decision as well. It's a council really sets that in the budget. But I think it's important information for our council to know what administration is doing behind the scenes. And at the time of this motion that was defeated, COVID was definitely took us by surprise, I believe, and I think I was afraid to ask for this information at the time, just because we were in an ever-changing environment, and I wanted to try and keep some calm a little bit as well. But yeah, Councillor Howe.
Yeah, well, when I originally put this on the table, that was just the fact that we would have the information so we can chew on it, think about it, and beat it around in our heads here a little bit. We set direction for staff. And this is an unprecedented time, and there may come a point where this lasts for months and months and months, and who knows if it goes on for a year. And we should be prepared for that type of stuff. That is not being responsible with taxpayers' money if we are not prepared for what steps we need to take to start lowering the costs to the community. It doesn't make sense for us to continue to pay for people that aren't doing the job that they're supposed to be doing for forever. I mean, any major corporation in Canada is laying people off. Air Canada, WestJet, the grocery stores are about the only place that isn't right now, right? Truck drivers, fuel depots, I mean, it's all over. You've got to be prepared for it. It's not to say that you have to or you need to. It's just being prepared so that when the time comes, we can react to it. Perhaps that's before the May 15th deadline.
But keep in mind, Council, that this report is not informing us of what we need to do as council as far as staffing levels go. This is a report asking staff what they're preparing for us in the future. Councilor Norbury.
What they're preparing to do to lay people off. That's what we're saying. I want you to come up with a report on how you're going to plan on lay people off in the future. That is not our decision. It is up to staff, and their management are better equipped to make those decisions than we are. And we have to trust them to make that decision. That's my concern.
Okay. Any other comments? Councillor.
Like when we were setting the budget back in April, we did not, or sorry, to be ready for April, when we were setting the budget and getting our ducks in a row, we did not know that this was coming. So I think that if we hear from staff that there are positions that could be laid off, or we could have the government provide us some funding for those people if they were laid off, or whatever, it's just to be prepared for it. I have heard from quite a few people that are concerned that certain things are not happening within the community that should be during a time like this with our staff employees. And I just want to know, when people come to ask me, are you guys planning on doing anything? I want to know where we're at, and that's the report that we're looking for. So, and yeah, unfortunately, we might have to lay people off. Well, go out on a limb, I'll say it. Unfortunately, we might have to lay people off. But you have to be ready. You have to have the facts. You have to have time to chew on it. Think about what everything is. So.
Yeah, but again, it's not our decision. It's staff's decision.
No.
And staff is preparing. Obviously, they're monitoring the workload all their employees, and any deficiencies or if there comes a point in time when this is a 6-month stint and this certain department isn't as busy as they should be or could be, staff will make that decision at that time. But this report is asking staff to tell us what their plans are. That's what this is. Any other comments? Okay, call the question, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, councilor's business, Councilor Falcon.
I just have a couple of things and I've gone through years to the wall. Budget, I apologize, I didn't get in to see it. Appreciate and understand why. Budget, there's no schedule within our agenda this week, or I didn't get one.
No.
Not sure if that's counted. Do we know where our plans are for the budget? Yes.
Yeah, the first 3 readings are looking at April 20th.
That was the plan.
Yep. First 3 readings looking at April 20th, and then a 3rd reading in the first meeting in May, and then adoption in a special meeting that we can call.
Okay. So I guess if I may again back to staff, and I apologize to Mr. Wall and to all staff not being able to get in to ask these questions this afternoon. I noticed, I mean, don't get me wrong, hats off to Public Works and all the other staff, but I mean, snow removal has been amazing, so I mean, we can't, there's no knock there, but I just noticed like the last few big snows, we've had to use the grader to do sidewalks, so I'm assuming the age of the holder is a concern and probably breaking down, which no issues with me. I'm just wondering if that's something we should be talking about in regards to doing a pre-approval on the sidewalk holder. So that, I'm just thinking with COVID-19 and I went through all my budget papers and some of the stuff staff had asked for and wanted, and there's golf carts in there, and I don't think that's a big hurry to get. But I'm wondering with the holder in regards to the leeway time and getting it ordered and having it here for fall. Is there maybe a concern with waiting, discussing in May, that we may miss getting it here on time for the fall?
I'm not sure if the fall was ever the time we were looking for. It might have been before, but I don't know if it was. I don't know the lead time on the holder, but to answer it in a more general term, yeah, moving forward, it would be a lot more helpful to staff if council would pre-approve the capital and special projects list a lot earlier. I'll find out if the holder is a specific concern, but as a general concern, yeah, there's been a lot of projects that council wants done. It's a large operation.
Yeah, and I kind of get all the other ideas. I mean, my thing has been really thinking about this holder. I'm not sure if the rest of council's noticed that. It's on my job, but you know, seeing that the graders doing sidewalks means our holder's down, and that's a huge concern coming here if with COVID-19. And of course, I'm not talking about our municipality, but I have friends in other municipalities that have done some pre-approvals or whatever, and their orders have been pushed off till August. Well, if we wait till May, are we pushed off till October or longer? If wherever they decide to order this sidewalk holder, and that's a concern to me. I'm not sure where council feels, and I'm not sure if I throw a motion out there, but we should look at pre-approving that holder. It's a huge, that piece of machinery is down very, very seldom in regards to workload. It cuts our grass in town. It cuts grass out at the airport. It does all of our snow removal for our sidewalks and our walk paths. If this comes in later this fall, what scares me is we start getting snow and we're trying to keep an old one running. It was down. I know it had to have been if I had a grader down my street doing my sidewalk, the holder was down. And that's what concerns me. And I understand where Mr. Wall says on the other capital, and maybe that's something this council should look at for next year's budget. I think a little late here, but you know, there's probably some items that we probably should be looking at. And I get sometimes it's hard, but there probably should be some items. And I'm sorry, but I'm not worried about the golf carts. We have golf carts that we can use if we had to, if the golf course opens in this summer. So I'm not sure what council thinks of that. We just throw it out and hope.
I think we should.
Okay, I'm gonna throw it out that we pre-approve the budget for the sidewalk holder for 2020.
Seconder. Councilor Majinski, comments? Councilor Howell.
I thought we were told the grader couldn't do sidewalks in Tumbler Ridge. When we did the snow report, we asked about why are we not winging it back with the grader, and we were told that the grader, the way the slope of the road is and the drive, so like if this is that big of a deal, then we should have heard it from staff. I mean, I don't know. They did a fantastic job up on my road here last week or last Sunday, whenever that major snowfall was, and they had the grader and the snow blower out doing it there, and it was fantastic. I mean, if that was done once or twice over the winter, it would be great to knock all the snowbanks back like that, but I don't quite get the rationale, again, why we would need to jump out ahead of this instead of staff coming to us and letting us know that this has been an issue.
Councillor Capel.
Yeah, so I just wanna throw it out there, I mean, please, I mean, I'm not beating up on staff on this, maybe they haven't come forward, I mean, Mr. Beal's off and stuff, I have no idea. But I watched last Saturday, I mean, we have a snow policy that we put into place, and we asked for Willow to be done, Sawwas to be done. I mean, I'm not gonna mention the employee, but I watched the gentleman that was running the grader, like, you could tell he knew that what he was doing and make sure that he didn't take off the sidewalk, like he had the blade. So I'm not a grader operator, but I think they did a bang up job with it. Like watching him work Willow, I mean, I'm not sure, it's not my problem how long it took him, but he understood that there's a ramp up to our sidewalks, and he took care of that. So I think, you know, I think maybe with being senior staff member not being, careful because I don't want to say he's not at work, but being off due to sickness, I mean, you know, maybe that could be an issue over there. I have no idea. I didn't, and again, I apologize to senior staff, Mr. Wall, personally, that I wasn't able to get in today. I mean, there's reasons, and I don't think it's not an excuse. It's just, things happen, but that's why I put it out there. I think there is a concern there with that holder. And it concerns me with COVID-19 as well. Depends on where they're ordering it from. You know, if it's from the US, I'm not sure where we're getting our equipment from, but it could be a concern, and that's why I threw it out there.
Very valid concern. I mean, this whole situation is gonna push back a lot of different things. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Kelka, for the idea. My question, I guess, is to staff. One, is this maybe to the people on the table? I know we want to replace the machine that clears off the sidewalks, right? And we're just pre-approving that. Like we already know that it's in disrepair. Okay, fair enough. I remember it was a little confused. Then I perfect.
Okay. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Councillor Capel.
One last thing. I'll throw a motion out there that we direct staff to contact all the non-profits that we fund. Tumbler Ridge Museum Foundation, the Tumbler Ridge Global Geopark, Tumbler Ridge Library Boards, to find out what their plans are moving forward with in regards to COVID-19 and staffing.
And cost savings.
And cost savings, no, staffing, cost savings.
Seconder, Councillor Howell. Discussion. Councillor Kirby.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Bertrand. And that's just those three, not, the youth center, we're just limiting it to the bigger tickets or across the board?
My bad, I'd like to, I mean, I know it's already been seconded, and I mean, I hate the idea of throwing a motion out there, because of that, I didn't think about the youth center.
Well, there's more than that
But,
too.
you know, like, those are mainly the ones we fund, though, the youth center,
You did say all the not-for-profit, so isn't that correct?
Okay,
Is that in the motion?
it does.
okay, that's good then.
Okay. Councillor Howell and Mr. Wall.
And I also want to add the community forest in there as well. Is the community forest able to save some money with their employee that they have? Get 75%? I don't know, but I'd like to see that they're looking into it, that they're trying to save that money.
So that would need to be an amendment because community forest isn't a not-for-profit, so. Before amendment.
However, that amendment needs to be read, but yeah, also to include the community forest as an amendment.
On the amendment. Councillor Kirby. Discussion.
Yeah, just get some clarity from Councillor Howell, like, to me, their community forest is a little bit different, I think. I mean, we can throw that motion out after this one, but adding it, I think we're getting it mixed water, because they are I think they're for profit.
They are.
And I know they have one employee, their board's all volunteers, I get what you're saying in regards to the government thing, and,
Yep.
you know, I just think if we're gonna, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but just thinking about if we add it there, is it,
Well, let's not then. We'll put it
you
as
know what
a
I mean, is
separate.
it mixing it?
Nope, put it as a separate motion.
So I won't support it, but a separate motion, I think I might support something like that.
Okay, so call the question, all in favor of the amendment? Opposed? Defeated? So, motion was for all nonprofits
Funded by the District of Motchosin.
funded by the District of Tumbler Ridge to look at cost savings. Is that correct, Jane?
I was to find out their plans moving forward in regards to staffing and cost savings. Is that
Okay. Any other discussion? Councillor Howell.
So that's grant aid fee for service. That's all included in this.
Nonprofits funded by the district.
Okay.
Councillor Norwood.
So I only have a bit of a procedural issue in that we're in council business and we're making motions. Like, shouldn't this be going through the regular notice of motion procedure? Like, yeah, I don't think we should be making motions on the fly because look at what's happening, right? Like, we're not sure what we're trying to encapsulate. We're trying to throw in different amendments. We don't really know exactly what we're trying to get at. With maybe a little more of lead time preparation, we can get a crafted motion out there that encapsulates what we're looking for, and we can debate it. I don't like doing it this way. I think we're throwing it out there, and
Okay, thank you. Councillor Palka.
Yeah, and I agree with Councilor Norbert. The reason I threw it out there is, you know, I had talked about it previous, and yeah, I get the heads up concept of debate, but to me, I think we're also on a timeline here. You guys all talked about this timeline with the budget coming up? There's a timeline. These other organizations are funded fairly heavy through grant and aid or fee for service. And to me, that's the concern I have. And that's why I didn't ask to go to the geopark, to the board. Because to me, that's not my staff, and I don't direct them, and I don't approve them. To me, I'm asking the board because they're the ones that came forward asking for money from the District of Tunbridge, which again, I'm accountable for, and I will either approve the budget or not approve it on maybe what I hear back. So that's why I think it's time sensitive.
Okay. Councillor Norwood.
And we have, if all these nonprofits, organizations, we have district liaisons that can be bringing this to these boards, right? You know, we can start a conversation, but I don't think we need to do it through an active motion, asking them to tell us what they're doing. And I think there's better ways to do that to keep the communication, just to keep better relations, right? Like, yes, we should be hearing from them, but I don't think we should be forcing them to do it through notice of motion.
I disagree. I think through the motion, it's staff's, we're asking staff to do that instead of ourselves. Mr. Wall.
Yeah, I'm just looking for clarity. So is council looking to make a notice of motion now that'll come up on the next meeting, or is council looking to debate the motion now?
Debate.
So if council's looking to debate the motion now, then you need unanimous consent for the motion to pass.
Okay. Because it's in the council business section
Because it wasn't put as a notice of
on the
motion.
agenda. Gotcha. Councillor.
And to clarify with that, it wasn't put into the agenda, right? If this was a big enough deal, we could have put it in the agenda.
Okay. Councillor Kirkhope.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'll make it as a notice of motion. Seems like it has to be unanimous, and I'm pretty sure we're not gonna get one vote. I would like to have known that ahead of time. Mr. Walsh just spoke to that in regards to the budget concept as well, that we pre-approved the sidewalk holder, because maybe there would have been not unanimous consent to have that. So I think it should be fair across the board, not when it suits individual.
But just to be clear, I put my hand up to try and say that at the beginning I was put down to speak and then I wasn't asked to speak, so.
My bad there. So we can bring that forward as a notice of motion then?
Yeah, that's the only way we can do it.
For next meeting.
For Mr. Wall, it has to be unanimous. So.
Is that correct?
That's correct, and it should be properly recorded, the holder.
Because it needed unanimous consent.
That's correct.
Which already did not. Okay. So you would like that to bring forward as a notice of motion?
Both items.
Councillor Howell.
So I second that not as a notice of motion, I second that as the motion that we were debating tonight. Just because there may be one or two that are not interested in passing this motion tonight, that's what the debate is for. So if we can debate it enough to alleviate the concerns that we think it is a time-sensitive enough issue, that we could pass this tonight with a unanimous consent. I understand Chris is not comfortable with it, but and I understand his point that, you know, we have we have a district liaison to go out to these groups, but then do we need to wait for a board meeting, and do we need to wait for those board members to get together, and then blah, 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 blah. Next thing you know, we're May 12th and we're setting our budget. So to me, if we do this motion tonight, it is a letter directly from the District of Tumbler Ridge to those boards to say, we want some information on this. And it's no disrespect to anybody who is a liaison on any board, but it is a time-sensitive issue. And we shouldn't drag our feet on this. And to me, that should alleviate Mr. Norbury's concerns.
Agree, but procedurally, it should have gone through notice of motion. I I wasn't aware of the 100% unanimous support as well. So I believe it will have a better chance of passing through the notice of motion to talk about it next meeting, because both of these motions are pretty, I don't know what the word is, basic, I believe, basic information that we're asking for. So, Councillor
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think it also has a better chance if it comes to notice of motion, but it hasn't. It's come through councillor's business. It is legal to do it. I've seconded it. We can have a debate on it. If it doesn't go through, he can bring it back through a notice of motion, can he not?
Councillor Craig.
Yeah, and I'm fine with the notice of motion. I mean, I get where Councilor Norby came from, and I get it. You know, normally I would never throw out motions like that. I mean, the holder, I'd actually like to see if we could get an unanimous decision to put it on the agenda tonight, and see if we can debate that and make that forward as a vote. To me, it's a valuable piece of equipment to the District of Tom Ridge. It's something that's used all year long. It's not just for snowmobile. That's our grass. I'm fine with the other one in regards to non-for-profit boards. I mean, I think most of them are already working on it. I've forwarded an email out from the museum board. It already steps out what their plan is from their general manager. I just think other boards haven't been openly sending emails. And I think we should hear that information. It's on about layoffs, so that's what everybody's worried about. It's not what I'm looking for. It is a cost savings. The museum talked about their cost savings and what they're doing on themselves as a general manager and her 2 employees. And I think hats off to them. I believe the Geopark is doing something similar. There is a couple other things within the Geopark. When I received the comments from their general manager's report, and yeah, I'd like to hear that back from their board and see how the board felt, so that it could be talked about here. So,
Councillor Norbert.
Yeah, this just comes down to procedural wise, right? Like, we shouldn't be debating a motion until the procedure is, we throw a motion out there, everyone has to unanimously agree to bring it up for discussion, right? Like, it gets defeated before it gets brought up for discussion, right? Now, yeah, I mean, I have my feelings on one particular motion and the other. I feel that we have all the information we need, but then again, we should be following good procedure.
Okay. So we'll agree that both of those come through notice of motion then?
It's been seconded, hasn't it? Do we not have to have a vote if it's been seconded? Or can he remove it? Or how does that work?
Yeah, we have to have a vote, yes. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? I guess that's carried.
It's kind of a conflict of interest here too, but
It's that,
Unanimous.
Go ahead, Councillor.
so before we can even vote, before we can even debate, we need to have a unanimous vote to vote on it. Right? That vote, what we made was, we need everyone to agree that we're going to vote on this now. Because there were 3 that were not, we're not going to vote on it happening. It has to come through the notice of motion if we want to create action, or have a report on the next agenda.
Thank you, Councillor Norbert. Sorry. Councillor Calvin.
I'd like to ask to add something to the agenda. I'd like to add that we add to the agenda for discussion the pre-approval of the sidewalk holder in the capital item.
Seconder, Councillor Norbert. All in favor? Opposed? Defeated?
There,
Okay, going forward. Question, answer, period, no.
Councilor Business?
Sorry, yes, Councillor Business.
I do want to make a statement regarding some comments that I made in the Monday, March 16 council meeting in regards to an individual whom attended the Pacific Dental Conference. My comments gave specific details about this member and their family, and it was inappropriate of me to put that much detail into my statement. In these comments, the family may have been potentially ostracized and criticized and harmed their mental well-being. If I followed up with this person and did my due diligence, I would have been told that upon direction from the health authority, this family did isolate and did not develop, and they also did not develop COVID-19 symptoms. So to this family, I want to apologize for any harm that I have caused, or any harm that my comments will have caused.
Thank you very much. Lastly, I would like to present our CAO, Mr. Wall, with a departing gift, the appreciation for your time spent here. Thank you very much. As well.
My, youngest daughter put a hole in that very same picture that we had at home 3 days ago. Fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And,
Thanks, Jordan.
thank you to your council as well. I've enjoyed it.
You guys are getting technical. 15.1 adjournment recommendation, please, Councilor Alta.
Sorry. Adjourn the open.
Seconder, Councilor Kirby, all in favor? Carried, thank you.
But, at Councilor's business, but I thought, I'm just gonna let that go.